can maybe.
I mean, I can see personally from here. I'm also comfortable in this form.
Is it possible to increase the resolution or something?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, go to the screen, preferences.
No, it just.
Modern, I think 1024 is the. I know the display is not being.
Oh, now this works.
This is not the.
I'm going to talk about Musica, the Microtonal score editor. First, I'm going to talk about some of the technical details, some of the features, and then I'm going to talk about our future plans for it. And hopefully, some use cases for CompMusic will emerge towards the end of this. On the surface, Musica is very much like other score editors, if you've used any of them. Here we have the score paper, and on the left-hand side we have the notation symbols. Basically, you just pick your notation symbols and put them on the paper. One difference is that we have a categorical tool strip as opposed to stacking everything on the screen and overwhelming the user. So as I choose notation tools, I just get the relevant options. Just keeps scrolling away. When I put notation symbols on the score paper, layout is automatic for the most part. So I can just put a slur over these notes and then maybe add an articulation on this, and everything kind of rearranges itself on the fly. All of the graphics are vector graphics, so we can zoom in indefinitely and export export the score to various image formats and to sound formats. We can get a high quality printout. So these are the most of the basic features of a modern score editor. So what sets Musica apart? It's the microtonal part. So why do we need a microtonal score editor? As we know by now, Turkish music, the pitch system of the Turkish music can't be accurately represented by the Western scales. And we know that almost all of the score editors out there are based on the 12-tone equal temperament scale. And they also happen to be built according to the Midi specification, which also is designed for the 12-tone equal temperament system. We use a 53. We divide the octave into 53 equal parts in the most widely used framework, theoretical framework in Turkish makam music. And so that means that first of all, the frequencies that the staff, the various levels on the staff, don't correspond to the 12-tone scale. And that also means we need a number of accidentals to represent all the pitches that we use in Turkish makam music. So basically, what we need to work with Turkish makam music in a score editor is the ability to retune the staff, and we also need to be able to define our own accidentals. So if I can fit this into the screen. First of all, I'm going to show you how we retune the staff in Musica. So this is this is part of the tuning window. The most important part is probably the pitch section. Here we have basically a representation of the staff, and this you can see the treble clef here, and this would be the first line of the 5-line staff. We don't see the remaining 2 lines because we just have the 7 degrees of the 12-tone scale here. So this would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and here we see the frequencies, A4 with 440 hertz. Here we define the degrees, the number of degrees in the scale, and where the scale starts. We can define the octave ratio, and this is necessary because we just define one period of a scale, and Musica will automatically repeat the scale upwards and downwards for higher and lower notes. Here we have the retuning section. So when I choose a pitch here, I can change the frequency directly as a hertz value. I can also, well, it's hard to see here. I can also change it, calculate it as a fraction. For example, a 3:2 ratio would give me a perfect fifth interval. I can also calculate it as a cents value, but it's kind of beyond the screen right now. Another limitation of other score editors is that their key signatures are based on the circle of fifths. So you can either have the regular sequence of sharps or flats, but as you'll see in Turkish makams, we use key signatures of various flats and sharps. So here we have all the accidentals available in this score, and I can just pick any of them that I want, and I can put them in any sequence, and I can create my key signature. One thing I will come back to later is we also have metadata for each tuning in a score, and this will be necessary because we might want to annotate the tuning, who designed it, what is its purpose, and what is the idea behind it. So now I can retune the stuff, but I still need a way to define accidentals. And we do that in the symbols window. And here we have a list of the built-in accidentals. And we can just pick one and work on it. We can give it a name. We can give it a value in cents. And we can adjust its position and size. So I can just drag it around and change its scale. I can get new symbols from a music font that I have, or I can import graphics from a SVG file. I can import and export symbols from other scores or individual accidental files. And the accidentals that I define are defined in this section. As a built-in collection of accidentals, we have the quarter tone accidentals that is used in some Western music. We have the accidentals for Turkish classical music, and here we have the Turkish folk music accidentals with numerical indexes. So I want to continue with showing a typical Turkish music score. So we've talked about the categorization for Turkish makam music is that it's kind of a heterophonic music, and in notation it's basically a monophonic melody line. We can have lyrics, and we can have sometimes we have ornamentations. Of course, the third important factor for having a microtonal score editor is the ability to hear what you write with correct intonation. And we've done this in Musica by designing our own microtonal sampler. And to do this, we had to completely leave aside the MIDI specification and build a sampler that directly works with frequency values. So normally you say play MIDI note 69 and you would get the A4 note. And in Musica we say play 440.0 hertz, and or any floating number, and we will get that note playing. And also, as opposed to many other samplers that map sound samples to MIDI note numbers, we just have a pool of samples that we tag with frequency values, and when it's time to play a note, we simply pull out the sample with the closest fundamental frequency, and then we kind of band its, change its playback speed to match the actual note we want to play. So when we play this note, this score, maybe this isn't a great example to see the microtonal playback, but at least, actually I will show you another score. This is a very well-known song in Turkish makam music. So here we have also a percussion staff that shows the usul pattern repeating throughout the entire score. Traditionally, in Turkish music, scores don't have the entire, the percussion line for the entire score. Usually, the melody is presented, and then at the end of the score, we just have one pattern of the percussion pattern, but to be able to listen to the entire score with the percussion, we have this directly under the melody. So there are a few things I want to talk about at this point. One is the issue of metadata. We try to embed as much metadata into the score files as possible. Now, if for people working with music information retrieval, of course, metadata is invaluable. But for a regular user, entering metadata is more of a chore if it doesn't directly benefit them in some way. So for the basic metadata like title, composer, subtitle, we get them from the special text areas defined directly on the score paper, so that when the user types the title of the score, he also provides the basic metadata. We also have some additional data that can be optionally filled out, like author, comments, and keywords. And these are, of course, designed with the idea of a search engine or indexing in mind. Another issue I want to talk about is the use of navigation symbols in Turkish music scores. For example, here we have a senyo sign, and here we have another. Now, in Western scores, the use of navigation symbols is a little different. You don't, for example, repeat the senyo sign several times. This normally here you would have maybe an expression like dal senyo al coda, which means to just go back to the senyo sign and play until the coda. In Turkish music scores, the senyo sign is used throughout the score in many places. And this is sometimes close to impossible for computer software to resolve because when you encounter a senyo sign, is it for going back to some place, or is it a target for jumping? So, but how does a human performer figure that out? Well, of course, musicians know about the form of the music piece that they're playing, so that when they look at a score, they can see that, for example, these 4 bars are the teslim section, and that it needs to be, that they need to go back to that section after every verse. For computer software, that it's more difficult. We will have to ask the user about the form of the score, and we don't currently do that. So in the previous presentations, we also talked about, well, Barış Bey and Kemal Bey talked about an ongoing debate about the theoretical framework of Turkish makam music. And so when you're building a score editor for that music, you have to decide which framework you're going to base your software on. And eventually we decided that we wouldn't base it on any particular framework, and instead we'll try to make Musica as flexible as possible. So the retuning of the staff and the ability to define accidentals are basically tools to that end. And indeed, Musica has been used by various musicologists in Turkey to publish and solicit feedback on their own particular suggested frameworks. One of these musicologists is, people working in music, at least, is Mehmet Yektay. He has created a different kind of framework based on, I think, the division of the octave to 41 equal pieces, equal divisions. And he has proposed different accidentals. They are similar to Helmholtz-Ellis accidentals, and the accidentals are based on integer multiples of 1.33 whole ring commas. And he was able to implement his proposed framework in Musica. So here we will see his proposed accidentals after the Turkish folk music accidentals, and he has used them in the key signature and in various places throughout the score. We can listen to this for an idea. I have to retune this. I think it's playing at twice the speed. Yeah, I think it's playing at twice the speed because Now, in Turkish music, in the Turkish music community, most people are vehemently against trying polyphony with the material of Turkish makam music. But on the other hand, there are some composers who have given this a try. One of them is Kemal İlerici, and he has written a piece for the piano that I'd like to show to you. Now, to the best of our knowledge, İlerici never had a chance to actually play this on a piano because no piano with the necessary tuning existed in his lifetime, and obviously he didn't have access to computer software. But today we are able to notate and play back his music with Musica, and we can also listen to this for briefly. Now, of course, to play this on an actual piano keyboard, you would have to have those extra black keys that Kemal Bey showed in Musiki Okur. But at least here we can have an idea of how it would sound like. And of course, the microtonal capabilities of Musiki aren't limited to just Turkish makam music. You can have, you can notate Greek music, Iranian music, Arabian music, and in fact, any kind of pitch framework that you can think of. It's also useful to microtonal composers. I'd like to show a test piece that I prepared for Musica. This piece is mainly to test the microtonal playback of Musica. It has many perfect fifth intervals stacked on top of each other, so it's easy to hear the difference between a 12-tone scale and just intonation. Were you going to say something? No? Okay. So at first, I'm going to play this with the sawtooth wave in 12-tone. And then we can listen to it in just intonation with the fifth intervals aligned mathematically perfectly, and we can observe the difference more easily, I think. So now I'm going to change the tuning to just intonation. So as you can observe, when we align the harmonics of the sawtooth wave with the natural harmonic series of the just intonation tuning, it moves beyond affecting the harmony, and it begins to affect the timbre of the sound. And in fact, the coinciding harmonics constructively interfere with each other, and the sound goes really up, and the timbre becomes really sharp and pulsating. Another example I'd like to show is one of Bach's scores. This is once again in 12 tone, so we can just listen to a few bars maybe. Now, obviously, Bach didn't write this piece for 12 tone because when he was still composing within his lifetime, there were a multitude of tunings used, and in fact, which tunings he used for which of his songs and which of his instruments is still debated. So, for example, we can try different tunings with this score. One of our friends and colleagues, Dr. Ozan Yarman, for example, suggested that we use a golden mean tone temperament with this score. Let's see if we can hear the difference. Mean tone temperament usually emphasizes major chords, major and minor third intervals. I don't know if it was obvious in this example. Microtonal composers like to work with the software called Scala, and they design their scales and they test their ideas. And so we also support the Scala tuning format, and we can directly import Scala files into Musica. For example, I'm going to import this particular tuning. It's a scale with 5 degrees. Actually, it's okay. Out of the 19-tone equal temperament scale. And for example, we can use in our compositions and see the frequencies here. Now, of course, the sounds in Musica aren't great in this current version. We plan to replace them with better sounds. But even so, if you're a serious musician, you'll probably want to eventually move your music out of Musica and into another professional production application. And to do that, we have our MIDI export function. Now, of course, MIDI export is rather straightforward for, once again, 12-tone scores, but when you're dealing with microtonal scores or Turkish makam music or Arabian music, you have to deal with pitch bands and Midi channels. Now, MIDI has 16 channels, and all of those channels can play multiple notes at the same time. But if you send a pitch band message to a channel, it affects all the notes playing at that channel at that time. So what we have to do is distribute all the simultaneous notes to the different MIDI channels. We have several algorithms in Musica to do that because each software responds differently to this kind of workaround. And so you have to kind of test each algorithm with your scores and with your other production software and see which one works. So for the future of Musica, what are we doing? We are working on MIDI recording, one of the most popular requests. We are also working on, as I said, new better samples. We hope to record the samples, the sound samples that we have in a professional studio, and we also intend to add more sounds. Here we have a list of Turkish instruments, and we also have some electronic sounds. These are the percussion instruments. And we also would like to improve the playback module to make it more human-like and also deal with melodic segments. For example, if I go back to another score. So if I play this with a plucked string instrument, it doesn't sound that bad. But if I change the instrument to ney, which is a wind instrument, I also have to adjust the tuning. Now, as you hear, each note is played as if it's with its own breath. For example, here we have a slur, which means that this passage should be played in a single breath, and perhaps this entire passage could be played in a single breath. But when we play it like this, it sounds really terrible. So one thing we need to do is to identify melodic phrases and communicate that information to the microtonal sampler, so that instead of creating new notes with new breaths, it will be able to kind of sustain a single note throughout the entire phrase and just kind of bend the pitch of that note along the melody line. Maybe I could show the MIDI recording capability briefly. MIDI recording isn't complete yet, so and we also have some trouble with the MIDI keyboard here. It doesn't respond very well. The MIDI recording screen is also similar to other MIDI software. We have like a grid of with the timeline in the horizontal axis and the pitch steps through the vertical axis. Now the big difference is that, of course, I can choose a tuning and just directly play my keyboard with that tuning. If you want to do that with other software, you have to have retuning software in the middle between your keyboard and your music software, and that retuner software has to send pitch bend messages. It has to do kind of routing. Here we don't have to deal with that. We can just directly play the keyboard, and Mus2 will map the MIDI note numbers to the pitches of the selected tuning. So I can maybe try to. No, it's not quite working. So. Lastly, I want to talk about the Mus2 XML. The Mus2 file format, which is an XML-based format, and then I'll leave the floor to Sertan. Now, as I said, we emphasized having as much metadata as possible. We have basically an XML dump from the internal objects that we use to represent the score elements inside Musica. And then we compress that XML dump with zlib so that it doesn't take as much space. So in this section, we have the basic metadata that I showed you earlier. And here, for example, we have the definition of an accidental sign. We define the accidental value. This one is a natural sign because its value is 0. And what we do to represent the actual sign is to embed an SVG file that represents that symbol. Here we have a definition for a tuning. And as I said, we also keep some metadata for the tuning entities. This is because, for example, if you look at the history of Ottoman music, you'll see, for example, a sultan who was into music devised his own makam and composed his own works in that makam. And we can keep that information here, and we can have a description here. And here we have the retuning information for the staff. Once again, the levels of the staff are defined here, and we define the key signature here with the IDs referring back to the symbol definitions. And here we have, for example, an example of a note. The note is inside a chord entity, and it has one note head at the 5th level, which is the note E on a treble clef. It has a comma symbol and articulation above it, and it has the lyrics syllable A under it. So what I'm trying to show is that it's a rather simple format, and it could be used as part of various research work, even in CompMusic. It's not fully documented at this point, but if there is interest, we'll be happy to create that documentation. If we go below a bit more, for example, here we have definitions for slurs. In most other score software, slurs are just graphical symbols. They're just Bezier lines, Bezier curves. In Musica, we directly attach slurs to chords, or rather notes. So we refer to the notes that we defined previously, and that means, of course, that we can use this information unambiguously to, for example, determine where, for example, where the breath starts and ends for a wind instrument or a vocalist. We also have some free-floating text here. It's also easy to take this text and index it for search engine purposes. And indeed, we also created a prototype search engine for Musica scores. I can also show that briefly. This is like a very simple micro Google for Musica score files. Here we have the most recent additions, and we have the top-down modes. You know, it's just a prototype. It's not actually in use. We can make queries. For example, if I type Nihavent, it will bring me something with Nihavent in the subtitle, or written in Nihavent Makam in the title. So basically what we do is all the metadata that I talked about is indexed as individual keywords by this basic search engine, and we can make simple queries. Of course, this needs to be developed further to be actually useful to people, and it of course needs to have lots of scores inside it, so that people will have a reason to actually use it. That's all I want to talk about Musica. If you have any questions or comments. Uh-huh.
So you just search within your database? Or
Yes. It's on Google App Engine. It was written in Python. So we basically submit Mus2 scores into the engine, and they're indexed, and then you can search them. Here I have a map of people who use Mus2. So basically we have users from all around the world, with most of them from Turkey. So I think...
There's one user in Portugal.
yeah, okay.
It's white.
Maybe, no, I think it's like a really light green, so maybe it's just you, maybe. Okay, maybe you need to visit more often the website. So I think Mus2 is, to some extent, successful in representing multiple music cultures and various needs for composition and notation. It was written with C++ using the Qt framework, and it runs under Windows and Mac. It also compiles under Linux, but it needs some fine-tuning to actually to work nicely. And it could potentially be ported to Android and some other platforms that the Qt framework might support someday. And that's all I want to say.
How can create and import extra accidentals and show it?
Oh, okay. So if I make a new accidental, now I don't have a music font on this computer, so I'm just going to use some weird symbol that I'm going to pick randomly. Okay, maybe. Okay. Okay, I'll just use this one. So I can align this to the notes and position it and give it maybe a value of 125 cents. Or if I want to make it a flat symbol, I would make it minus 125. Okay. Okay. So if I want to use this symbol in multiple scores, I don't have to create it every time. So I can just export it as a Mus2 accidental file. So just going to call it sharp. And it's an individual file that I can later import into other scores, send it to other people, so I can easily share my theoretical framework with other people. Importing is also done the same way. So if I click import, it would just appear here. And of course, it appears here in the tool strip. It's with the name of new accidental. Anything? Any other questions? Sorry? No, okay. Okay, we can listen. So my Chinese or Japanese accidental actually works.